The following contains graphic and possibly disturbing imagery. Viewer discretion is advised.
Shipman joins list of world's worst serial killers. Estimates that Harold Shipman may have murdered 297 patients during his 24-year career as a doctor would make him one of the world's most prolific serial killers. The worst known serial killer was Indian thug Burham, who strangled at least 931 victims with his yellow and white cloth strip in the Uttar Pradesh district of India between 1790 and 1840. Transylvanian Elizabeth Bathory is thought to be the most prolific female murderer. She is believed to have killed about 650 girls between 1560 and 1615 in order to drink their blood and bathe in it, an act which she was convinced would preserve her youth. The worst known modern serial killer is Colombian Pedro Lopez, who raped and killed at least 300 young girls in a killing spree through Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador in the 1970s. Lopez, dubbed the Monster of the Andes, was exposed in 1980 after a flash flood uncovered the first of his victims. He was sentenced to life imprisonment in Ecuador later that year after more than 50 graves were uncovered. In 1999, fellow Colombian Luis Alfredo Gaviria confessed to having raped, tortured, and murdered 140 children in a 5-year killing spree. The mutilated corpses of 114 mostly male victims aged between 8 and 16 were uncovered near more than 60 towns in at least 11 of Colombia's 32 provinces. The bodies were beheaded and bore signs of having been tied up. Among the most prolific British murderers was Mary Ann Cotton, who was hanged in Durham Prison in 1873. She married 3 times and over some 20 years used arsenic to poison as many as 21 people. Husbands, children, stepchildren, friends, and relatives. Her motives were either insurance money, remarriage, or sheer spite. She was executed after being arrested following a spat of deaths at her home county in Durham in the 1870s. Edinburgh body snatchers Burke and Hare became serial killers after identifying the lucrative market for selling human bodies with no questions asked to the city's medical schools. The pair, Labradors from Ulster, strangled people in Edinburgh's Old Town and sold the bodies, but the murder of their 16th victim led to their arrest, and Hare turned on Burke, which sent Burke to his death on the gallows in January 1829. Hare is said to have died a pauper in London in 1859. Courtesy of dailymail.co.uk. Alien-like creature resembling ET discovered in ancient area of Pacific seafloor. A marine creature that resembles the alien ET has been found growing in a prehistoric area of eastern Pacific seafloor rock. The ET sponge has been classified as a new species in Guinness. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration said Thursday as it announced the discovery. The creature was found in an extraordinary seascape 7,875 feet down, where strange-looking creatures appeared to be growing from the rocky seafloor. This forest of the weird, nearly 850 miles southwest of Hawaii, included an alien-like community of glass sponges that appeared to look back at the deep-sea explorers with pink faces. Rising high on a stalk, this sponge had a body with 2 large holes, oddly reminiscent of the large eyes of the alien from the beloved movie E.T. The first reported sighting of the glass sponge was in 2016, and credit for the find is going to scientist Cristina Castello Branco, a postdoctor researcher who analyzed the specimen's skeleton and realized it was unknown to science. Glass sponges are animals that typically attach themselves to hard surfaces where they feast on small bacteria and plankton. A sample of the ET sponge was taken during a 5-hour deep sea dive at the Pikfata Seamount in the eastern Pacific Ocean. The seamount is a flat-topped area of rock created by volcanic activity. It's quite old, dating to the Cretaceous period.
Courtesy of SeattleTimes.com.
The Ghost of Oxford Milford Road. When Brad Culp was a student at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, there was a rumor that the town was one of the most haunted places in America. When Culp started an on-campus magazine, he couldn't wait to write about several of the area's most famous phantoms. Not long after his story published, though, he kept finding himself thinking about one ghost in particular. The Ghost of Oxford Milford Road. As the story goes, many decades ago, probably sometime in the 1940s, there was a young man courting a young woman in a rural part of town. Because the woman's parents didn't approve of the match, each night he visited under the cover of darkness. After her parents went to bed, the young woman would sneak out of her farmhouse and flash the lights of her parents' car 3 times. Then her young suitor would ride his motorcycle down the road. One night, he took the turn right before her house a little too sharp, says Culp. The motorcycle went one way, he went the other. His injuries were so severe that he did not survive. Rumor has it, however, that his love-struck ghost still haunts this stretch of Milford Road. Curious, Culp, his girlfriend, and a friend decided to head out there one night to see if they could verify the tale. His girlfriend was worried she'd be completely freaked out. She believes in that stuff more than I do, Culp says, but he was mostly concerned that his suspicions that none of this was actually true would be confirmed. On this particular night, as Culp passed the abandoned farm, an idea came to him, and he pitched it to his girlfriend. How could she not say yes? Though reluctant, she relented, and Culp turned a short way into the farmhouse driveway. He killed the engine and flashed his lights 3 times. No joke, there was a single headlight that appeared 3/4 of a mile down the road, Culp says. You saw it start to come, going pretty slow. It kept coming and coming. My wife was freaking out. It was coming closer and closer. As a collision seemed imminent, Culp turned on his car lights. He expected to see a kid on a bike bailing out from his prank now that he'd been caught. But there was nothing there. The light was just gone, he says. They got out of the car. They walked around trying to figure out what it was they could have seen. To this day, we still talk about it. I saw something I cannot explain, he says. If you get him and his wife around a campfire, they'll swear up and down that the story is true. And if you're ever in Oxford, Ohio, consider parking for just a few minutes on Oxford Milford Road at night to test your own nerve. The Ghost of La Parva Ski Resort. Throughout Latin America, you'll hear variations of the story of La Llorona, or the Wailing Woman. Sometimes she's lost her husband. Sometimes she's lost her children. Sometimes it's both. But in La Parva, a ski spot in the Chilean Andes, the Wailing Woman is named Lola, and everyone in the area swears they knew her before she died. A local restaurant owner said he dated her. Pro skier Drew Tapke pointed to the woods and said that's the exact spot where this took place. The story starts on a nice day in peak ski season. Lola and her young son plan to spend the day on the slopes. As can happen in the Andes, a thick fog rose up from the valley, which often precedes the arrival of a real storm. The clouds enveloped the two as they were making their way down from the top of the mountain, and they lost contact with one another. Desperate to find her son, Lola began screaming his name as she ran through the thick fog. Unable to see clearly, though, she stumbled down a steep slope and began sliding towards a rocky cliff. By chance, a local lift operator who was returning to his cabin came across her body. He was afraid she was dead, but on closer inspection, he found she was still alive, just barely. Her body was covered in lacerations from the sharp rocks, and she only had one word to say in the faintest whisper. It was her son's name. The lift operator worked to carefully pull her body to his cabin, which was just up the hill. He bandaged her cuts as best he could and then ran to fetch the doctor. Together, the doctor and the lift operator made their way back to his hut, the fog hanging thickly in the air. When they arrived, though, the bed was empty. Just the bloody sheets remained. Neither the woman nor her son were ever found. but locals report hearing her wail for her child whenever they near the lift operator's cabin. Courtesy of OutsideOnline.com. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you want to. Sleep tight.